Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 58. This venerable one feels a little hazy. Actually, Moran could usually hold his liquor pretty well. It was just that, on this night, in order to cover up his anxieties and fake a nonchalance he didn't feel, he downed 5 whole jars of pear blossom white wine, grinning the whole time, until his consciousness grew hazy. When he was half dragged, half carried back to his room by Shimei and collapsed on the bed, Moran's throat moved, wanting to call Shimei's name. But habit was a frightful thing. During all of those years in the past, the one by his side wasn't the moonlight of his heart, but the mosquito blood he was sick of looking at. The name that came out of his mouth was that of the person he had always thought he hated. Chu Wanning. It came out all muddled. Wanning. Shimei hesitated, then turned to look toward Chu Wanning, who was standing by the door. Chu Wanning had carried Xuemeng back to his room and had just walked in, a bowl of sobering soup in hand, just in time to hear Moran's murmuring. After the initial surprise, he immediately convinced himself that he had misheard. After all, Moran had always called him Shizun. It was one thing if he called him Chu Wanning, but to call him Wanning. He couldn't help remembering that night at the Red Lotus Pavilion, when they had slept holding one another. Moran was fast asleep, had clearly called out Wanning, and then pressed a kiss to his lips, light as the touch of a dragonfly on water. Was it possible that, in Moran's heart, there actually was a little bit of... He smothered that thought before it had time to take root. Chu Wanning had always been straightforward and resolute. Except for matters of the heart, he knew well that he was a dawdling coward in those. Shizun. Shimei's bright eyes, unmatched in elegance, looked at him with uncertainty. You. Actually, it's nothing. Since Shizun is here to take care of Iran, I'll take my leave. Chu Wanning spoke. Wait. Does Shizun have any other instructions? Chu Wanning said, you 3 are leaving for the Peach Blossom Springs tomorrow. There wasn't much of an expression on Chu Wanning's face. A little while passed before he spoke again. Go get some rest. Make sure to take care of one another out there, and... He paused, then said, come back soon. Shimei left. Chu Wanning walked to the bedside, face impassive as he propped Moran up and fed him the sobering soup, spoonful by spoonful. Moran disliked the sour taste, and vomited it all back out not long after. But he did sober up a bit, opening his eyes and staring, half awake, at Chu Wanning. He mumbled, Shizun. I'm here. He started laughing for some reason, his laughter framed by dimples as he said, immortal gag. Chu Wanning. Moran plonked right back out after that, sprawled out on his stomach. Worried that he might catch a cold, Chu Wanning stayed by his side, pulling his blanket back up and tucking him in now and again. Outside the room, many disciples were not yet asleep, staying up to count down to the new year. Most of them were gathered inside in groups chattering and laughing, playing pai gao, or putting on magic tricks. When the hourglass hanging in front of Loyalty Hall finished trickling, signifying the changing of the year, the disciples rushed outside and began to set off fireworks and firecrackers, instantly filling the night sky with silvery flowers and branches of fire. Note, pai gao, a domino game. The deafening sounds from outside woke Moran from his hazy sleep. He cracked open an eye and pressed a hand to his throbbing temple, but the sight that greeted him was that of Chu Wanning sitting by his bedside, his handsome features composed and impassive. Seeing him awake, he said, lightly, did the noise wake you up? Shizun. He woke up fully, startled despite himself. Why was Chu Wanning the one keeping watch over him? Where was Shimei? He didn't say anything in his sleep that he shouldn't have, did he? Moran snuck an apprehensive glance at Chu Wanning's face, and only let out the breath he was holding when it seemed that nothing was out of the ordinary. The crackling sound of firecrackers continued outside. The two stared awkwardly at one another for a while. Chu Wanning, do you want to go see the fireworks? Mo Ran, where's Shimei? Said at practically the same time. It was already too late to take back anything. Mo Ran's eyes opened wide, startled, and stared at him for a long while as if he didn't recognize him. A moment passed in silence, and then Chu Wanning got up nonchalantly to leave, turning at the door to say, everyone's celebrating the new year, so he's probably not asleep yet. You should go look for him. It was only to be expected. He had such a terrible temper, after all. Even if he summoned up all of his courage to ask him to go watch the fireworks together, of course he would be rejected. He shouldn't have asked. How humiliating. Chu Wanning returned to the Red Lotus Pavilion and sat by himself beneath the haetang tree that bloomed year-round. There, alone, with a cloak draped over his shoulders, he watched the brilliant flowers blooming across the night sky. In the distance, the disciple quarters were warmly lit, their cheerful laughter drifting over, but none of it had anything to do with him. He should have gotten used to this long ago. But for some reason, his chest felt all stuffy. Maybe because seeing the merriment of others made it harder to return to his own solitude. Quietly, he watched the fireworks bloom, 1, 2, listened to the voices of people wishing each other a happy new year, 3, 5. Leaning against the tree, he closed his eyes, feeling a bit tired. He wasn't sure how long had passed, but he suddenly felt an intrusion into the barriers. His heart lurched, but he didn't dare open his eyes. He heard the sound of breathing, slightly winded, and those familiar footsteps, coming to a stop not far away. The young man's voice carried a hint of hesitation. Shizun. Chu Wanning. I'll be leaving tomorrow. It's gonna be quite a while before I can come back. Actually, there's nothing going on tonight, and we have to get up early tomorrow, so I think she may probably went to bed already. The sound of footsteps came nearer and stopped very close by. Mo Ran said, so, if you still want to, he opened his mouth, but the rest of the sentence was swallowed by the bang of an especially large burst of fireworks. Chu Wanning's eyelashes fluttered as he looked up. Backlit by the splendid river of stars in the night sky and the scattering of fire flowers like silvery frost, the handsome young man stood before him, looking pitiful and a little bashful. Chu Wanning had always been prideful. He didn't care for company born out of pity. But right now, looking at him, the words of refusal suddenly wouldn't come out. Maybe the wine had gotten to him too. Chu Wanning felt a sting in his chest, but also a warmth. Since you're already here, sit down with me. Then he added, softly, I will watch with you. He gazed up at the sky with an impassive expression, but the fingers hidden in his sleeves had curled up nervously. He didn't dare to look closely at the person beside him, fixing his eyes at the fireworks above instead, at the boundless night sky sprinkled with glittering brilliance. Chu Wanning asked quietly, has everyone been well these days? Mo Ran replied. We became friends with a cute little Shidi, we mentioned in a letter to Shizun before. How is Shizun's injury? It's nothing. Don't blame yourself. A firework burst in the sky, scattering resplendently. That night, fireworks and lanterns lit up the sky, firecrackers crackled non-stop, and the faint smell of smoke filled the snowy air. The two of them welcomed in the new year underneath the flowering tree. Chu Wanning was a man of few words, but Mo Ran looked for things to chat about, until he finally grew tired and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Mo Ran woke up, still underneath the tree, with his head in Chu Wanning's lap and a hefty but soft fur cloak covering him. It was Chu Wanning's firefox cloak, smooth and exquisitely made. A little startled, Mo Ran looked up to see Chu Wanning leaning against the trunk of the tree, deep in slumber. His long eyelashes drooped over his cheeks, quivering slightly with each breath like butterflies in the wind. Did they really just sleep under the tree like this? How did that even happen? With Chu Wanning's compulsive nature, he should have gone back to his room to sleep no matter how tired he was. How could he have been willing to settle for just carelessly resting under the tree like this, and, this fur cloak? Did he cover him with it? Moran sat up, his ink-black hair a little disheveled. He stared, draped in Chu Wanning's cloak, a bit at a loss. He wasn't that drunk last night. Although some things were a little blurry, he could more or less remember most of it. Even running here to the Red Lotus Pavilion of his own accord to welcome in the new year together with Chu Wanning was a sober, conscious choice. He had clearly hated this person, once, but when he heard him ask, "Do you want to go see the fireworks?" when he watched him turn around forlornly to leave with his head lowered, he had actually felt an ache in his heart. He had thought that, they wouldn't see one another again for a long time anyway. He didn't really have much grievance toward him in this life, and Chu Wanning was so lonely, it was no big deal if he kept him company until the morning once in a while. And so he brazenly came over. Thinking back on it now, he felt like he was really too. Chu Wanning woke up before he could finish the thought. Moran stammered, Shizun. Mn. He rubbed his temple, his brows drawn slightly together from having just woken up. You haven't left yet? I just woke up. Lately, for some reason, every time he saw Chu Wanning's impassive face, that silver tongue of his tied itself into a knot. Moran was stock still for a moment before suddenly remembering that he was still wearing Chu Wanning's cloak. He hurriedly took it off and scrambled to wrap it around the other person instead. While draping the cloak over his shoulders, Moran noticed that although Chu Wanning wore several layers of clothing, it was still a bit thin without the cloak as the outer garment in all the snow. The thought made his movements even more frantic, and he ended up tying his own finger into the knot while trying to fasten the tassel cord. Moran. Chu Wanning glanced at him and reached out to untie it, saying, "I'll do it myself." "Okay." And, appended in a mumble, "Sorry." "It's all right." Moran stood, and hesitatingly said, "Shizun, I have to go pack and eat breakfast and then I'll be setting out." "Mn. Would you like to go get breakfast together?" Pa. He wanted to bite his tongue and die right there right after saying that. The hell's wrong with him? What did he do that for? Maybe he saw the regret that surfaced on Moran's face right after asking that, but Chu Wanning paused, and then said, "I'll pass." "You go ahead." Moran was deathly afraid that he might say something even more outrageous if he stayed any longer, so he said, I am going then." Chu Wanning, "All right." After Moran left, Chu Wanning sat expressionlessly under the tree for a while longer before slowly getting up with a hand on the trunk for support, but then didn't make any further movements. His legs were completely numb from having served as Moran's pillow all night. He couldn't walk at all with the pins and needles in them. He stood there sullenly for a good while before his blood circulation returned to normal, and he could finally hobble his way back inside. Sure enough, after spending the night outside in such bitterly cold weather, even with the Haitang tree shielding them from the snow, he still ended up catching a cold. Achoo! He sneezed, the corners of his eyes already reddening. Covering his nose with a handkerchief, Chu Wanning thought, "Damn it! I probably caught a cold." Yu Heng Elder, the owner of 3 holy weapons, and the #1 great zongshi most sought after by all the sects of the cultivation world. The mere sight of Tianwen tamed the 4 seas, the white of his robes bested all the colors of the world. Such an impressive character, he could even be said to be the strongest cultivator of the era. Unfortunately, even the strongest person was bound to have a weakness. Chu Wanning's weakness was that he couldn't handle the cold, and would easily fall sick if exposed. Thus, when Moran and Shimei set off from Shizun Peak, not only had Chu Zongshi turned small again from the pill wearing off, but on top of that, he was also sneezing and sniffling non-stop. And so, when the feathered tribe arrived at noon to escort them, they were met with Xuemeng, Moran, and Shimei, who were perfectly healthy, and a pitiful little Shidi Siasini who could not stop sneezing. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 59. This venerable one is only so simple. There was nothing for it. Even if the little Shidi couldn't stop sneezing, they still had to get going. The feathered tribe led them eastward, to a port on the Yangtze River. They summoned a self-navigating ferry and with a barrier shielding the vessel, set off to sea. That night was the first time Moran got to spend time with Shimei on an outing without Shizun around, but strangely enough, he didn't seem to feel as excited as he thought he would. Xuemeng and Xiaosini had already gone to bed. Moran lay alone on the deck, arms folded behind his head, looking up at the starry sky. Shimei came out from the cabin with some of the dried fish they had bought from fishermen earlier and sat down next to Moran. The two of them nibbled idly at the snack while chatting. "Aran, since we're going to the Peach Blossom Springs, we might not make it to the Lingshan sword discussion. It doesn't matter much for me, but you and the young master are both so strong. Won't you regret it if you miss out on the chance to make a big debut?" Moran turned his head with a smile. "It doesn't matter, stuff like reputation and whatnot are just words, but going to the Peach Blossom Springs and learning real, useful skills to protect those important to me, that's what's important." Shimei's gaze seemed to smile and he said gently, "That you would think this way, Shizun would be so happy if he knew. And what about you? Are you happy?" "Of course I'm happy too." Waves crashed against the ferry, the wooden vessel rocking in the sea. Moran stared at Shimei for a while from where he was lying on his side. He wanted to tease him a bit, but then didn't know what to say. In his eyes, Shimei was pure and unattainable. Maybe it was because of this purity that he found it difficult to have any of the lewd thoughts he had towards Chu Wanning when faced with Shimei. Moran spaced out for a while. Shimei noticed that he was being stared at. He turned, tucking the stray strands of hair blown by the sea breeze behind a ear and smiled. "What is it?" Moran flushed and turned his head away. "Nothing." He was originally planning to use this outing as a chance to confess carefully to Shimei. But every time the words were at his lips, he couldn't open his mouth. Confession. And then? Moran couldn't be rough or forceful toward this pure, gentle person. He was afraid of rejection, but even if his feelings were returned, he was afraid he wouldn't know how to act towards Shimei. After all, he really did perform quite terribly during the short time they got to spend together in the last life. Other than that one moment of intimacy inside the ghost mistress's illusion, he never even kissed him. And not to mention, after what happened in this lifetime, he couldn't even be sure if that person in the illusion back then was Shimei or Chu Wanning anymore. Shimei was still smiling, "But you really do look like you want to say something to me though." For an impulsive moment, Moran wanted to just poke heedlessly through the thin layer of paper on the window. But for some reason, a figure dressed in white, with a face that didn't like to smile, flashed suddenly through his mind, a figure that always kept to himself, that looked so lonely. All of a sudden, it was like his throat had closed off, and he couldn't speak anymore. Moran turned back to stare at the night sky full of stars. A while passed before he said, quietly, "Shimei, you're really very important to me." "Mn. I know. You're the same to me." Moran continued, "Did you know? I had a nightmare once, and in it you weren't there anymore. I was so sad." Shimei smiled, "You're so silly sometimes." Moran. "I'll definitely protect you." "Okay, then I'll just have to thank my good Shidi first." Moran's heart caught, and he couldn't help saying, "I." Shimei asked in a soft voice, "Was there something else you wanted to say?" The ferry shook, and the sound of the waves seemed louder somehow. Shimei looked at him quietly, as if waiting for him to say those last few words. But Moran closed his eyes. "It's nothing. Why don't you go back inside and get some sleep? It's cold at night." Shimei was quiet for a moment before he said, "What about you?" Moran was quite a dimwit sometimes. I'm gonna watch the stars for a while longer, feel the breeze on my face." Shimei didn't move. It was a while before he smiled and said, "All right, then I'll go ahead. Don't stay up too late yourself." Then he turned and left. Beneath the boundless sky, the ferry sailed through the sea. That guy lying on its deck had no idea what he had just missed. He was even a bit absent-minded as he tried to dig out just what it was that he really felt in the depths of his heart. He thought about it for a long time, but he really was dim-witted, and so, even by the time the morning sun painted the eastern skies a soft white, he still hadn't figured anything out. He spent every waking moment with Shimei thinking that the feelings between them were deep and sincere. Moran had thought that he would definitely want to confess to Shimei as soon as they were alone, unable to wait another moment. But when the ferry reached the end of the bridge, he found that that wasn't the case at all. Maybe it was because he thought he was too clumsy, that if he were to go and rashly confess to Shimei right then, he'd definitely startle him, or, even if he didn't, it still wouldn't make for a good start. He was more used to this hazy vagueness between Shimei and himself. Sometimes his heart would flutter, he would reach out and take Shimei's hand as if without thought, and his chest would overflow with honey-sweet tenderness. It was such a natural feeling that he didn't really want to immediately shatter it. It was late by the time he went back inside the cabin, and everyone had already gone to sleep. Moran lay on the sleeping mat, staring at the night outside the narrow skylight. Slowly, Chu Wanning's figure appeared before his eyes, sometimes silent with his eyes closed, sometimes with a severe expression on his face. Of course, he also thought about the way that person looked when he was curled up, asleep, lonely and unassuming, like a hatang blossom that nobody cared for because it had bloomed too high up on the branch. Putting aside the hatred, Chu Wanning's entanglement with him in the last life truly was deeper than that of anyone else in this world. He had taken many firsts from Chu Wanning, regardless of whether he was willing. His first kiss, his first time cooking, his first time crying. And his first time. Damn it, just thinking about it made his body feel hot and his blood rush downwards. And, in exchange, he had given Chu Wanning some of his firsts as well, regardless of whether he wanted them. His first time becoming an apprentice, his first time coaxing someone, his first time giving flowers. His first time being thoroughly disappointed. And the first stirrings of his heart. Yes, the first stirrings of his heart. When he came to Shizun Peak, the first person he fell for wasn't Shimei, but Chu Wanning. That day, under the hatang tree, that white-robed young man was so beautiful, so focused, that it only took one glance for Moran to decide that he wanted this person to be his master, that no one else would do. But just when did it all change? Just when did the one he cared about become Shimei, and the one he hated, Shizun? He had thought about it a lot during the last couple of months. It probably began with that misunderstanding. That was the first time he had gotten lashed by Chu Wanning as punishment. The 15-year-old boy stumbled back to his room, bruised and battered, and curled up alone on his bed, eyes rimmed red, choking back sobs. The wounds on his back had hurt less than the cold. Expression on Shizun's face when he brought Tianwen down without a thread of mercy, like hitting a stray dog. It was true that he had stolen a hatang flower from the medicine garden, but he had no idea how precious that hatang had been, nor how carefully Madame Wang had tended to it for the last 5 years for one to finally bloom. The only thing he knew was that, walking home at night that day, a luminous white at the tip of a branch had caught his eyes. The flower's petals were clear and frosty, its fragrance mild and delicate. He tilted his head back to admire it, thinking of his Shizun. There was a throbbing in his heart for some reason, and even the tips of his fingers felt warm. Before he realized it, he had already plucked the flower, carefully and with the gentlest of movements, afraid of accidentally shaking off even a single drop of dew from the petals. Through the thick curtain of his eyelashes, he gazed at that dew-laden hatang blossom under the light of the moon. In that moment, he did not yet know just how pure the tenderness and affection he held for Chu Wanning was, nor did he know that, after that day for the next 10 years, 20 years, until death he would never have it again. Before he could give the flower to Shizun, he bumped into Xuemeng, who had come to pick medicinal herbs for his mother. The young master dragged him to Shizun in a rage. Chu Wanning turned from his scroll, his gaze ice cold as he listened. He shot a glance at Mo Ran, and asked if he had an explanation. Mo Ran started, "I picked the flower because I wanted to give it to." He was still holding onto that hatang, with specks of frost and drops of dew still clinging to its freshly bloomed petals, frosty yet indescribably beautiful. But Chu Wanning's gaze was too cold, so cold that it chilled the lava-like heat in his chest. He could no longer say the word you. That feeling was all too familiar to him. Before he was brought to Shizhung Peak, back when he had to scamper between songstresses and customers, shrinking into his thin, undernourished body to appear smaller and less obstructive, he had spent every day under that kind of gaze. That kind of contempt, that kind of disdain. A shudder ran through him. Could it be that Shizun actually looked down on him? In the face of Chu Wanning's ice-cold interrogation, Mo Ran felt his heart freeze over. He lowered his head and said, quietly, "I have nothing to say." And the rest was history. Just because of this hatang flower, Chu Wanning lashed him until all of his initial fondness shattered into pieces, 40 strikes in all. At that time, if only Mo Ran had just explained a little more, if only Chu Wanning had just asked a little more, then maybe things wouldn't have turned out the way that they did, maybe the master and disciple wouldn't have taken that first step on the road beyond redemption. But there weren't that many what-ifs. It was at this point that Shimei, warm and gentle, appeared at his side. After returning from Chu Wanning's place, Mo Ran didn't go eat, didn't even light a lamp, only lay curled up on his bed. This stiff figure curled up in the darkness was the sight that greeted Shimei when he opened the door. He set the bowl of chili oil wontons in his hands gently on the table, then walked over to the bed and called, softly, "A Ran." Mo Ran did not yet have any particular feelings toward Shimei at that time. He didn't even turn around, still staring at the wall with red, swollen eyes, and his voice was hoarse when he said, "Get out. I brought you some. I said get out. A Ran, don't be like that. Shizun has a bad temper, but it just takes a little getting used to. Come, get up and eat something." But Mo Ran was stubborn like a donkey, immovable even if dragged by 10 whole horses. "Don't want it? I'm not hungry." "At least have a bite. If you don't eat, Shizun will get Ma." Mo Ran shot up from bed before he could even finish the sentence, his watery eyes angry and indignant, quivering slightly beneath his lashes. Mad? What would he even be mad about? It's my body, how is it any of his business whether I eat or not? He doesn't even want me as a disciple anyway, I might as well just starve to death, less hassle for him, he'll be happier that way. Shimei. He hadn't expected his words to touch on Mo Ran's sore point like this, and was at a loss for a while, staring helplessly at the little Shidi in front of him. A long moment passed. Mo Ran pulled himself together and looked down, long hair covering half his face. "Mo Ran, sorry." Shimei couldn't see his face, only the subdued trembling of his shoulders and the veins on the back of his tightly clenched fists. But the 15-year-old boy was still too young, after all. He tried to hold it in for a while, but couldn't in the end. Burying his face into his arms, he curled into himself and bawled miserably, voice rough and broken, hysterical and lost, pained and grief-stricken. Body racked with sobs, he repeated the same thing over and over. "I only wanted to have a home. These 15 years, I really only wanted a home. Why do you all look down on me? Why do you all look at me like that? Why do you all look down on me?" He cried for a long time, and Shimei sat with him for a long time. When Mo Ran had cried enough, Shimei handed him a spotless handkerchief, then brought the bowl of now cold wontons over. Gently, he said, "Don't say silly things like starving to death anymore. You came to Shizun Peak and apprenticed under Shizun, so you are my Shidi. I also lost my parents when I was young, so if you want, I'll be your family. Come now, eat something. I made these wontons. Even if you won't give Shizun any face, at least give me some, Shimei's lips curled into a small smile as he scooped up a plump, translucent wonton and held it to Mo Ran's lips. "Try one." The rims of Mo Ran's eyes were still red. Those watery eyes stared at the person by his bed, but he finally opened his mouth and allowed that gentle person to feed him. Truth be told, that bowl of wontons had already gone cold and been soaked for too long, so it was no longer as good as it could have been. But, in that moment, under the candlelight, this bowl of wontons, that incomparably beautiful face, and those gentle eyes were carved deeply into his heart. In life and in death, never to be forgotten. It probably began that night. His hatred toward Shizun grew ever deeper. And that was also when he became convinced that Shimei was the most important person in his life. After all, everyone wanted warmth. Especially a stray dog that had frozen in the bitter cold so many times that the mere sight of salted roads made him tremble in anticipation of snow, of the coming of winter. Taxian Jun looked imposing, but only he himself knew the truth. That he was nothing but a wandering stray. A stray that had always been looking for a place he could curl up at, a place to call home, but he spent 15 years looking and still he couldn't find it. And so, his love and hate became laughably simple. If someone gave him a beating, he would hate that person. If someone gave him a bowl of soup, he would love that person. He was only so simple, after all. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 60. This venerable one discover a secret. With spells cast on the fairy, the travel was fast and by the next morning they had already reached the port of Yangzhou. There were already envoys at the harbor receiving them, stabling many of the horses. The party ate breakfast at the harbor, but since the feathered tribe didn't require sustenance, they sat by the edge of the harbor with their eyes closed, resting their spirits. Dawn had only just broken then and there weren't many merchants around conducting business, but the deckhands had all risen already, gathering together in groups of 3s and 5s eating porridge and steamed buns together, peeking and stealing curious glances at them from time to time. Bits and pieces of talk from those well-built men in simple labor robes as they chewed their meal fell in Mo Ran's ears. I recognize their clothes. They're people of the lower cultivation realm. The lower cultivation realm is so far away and our sect rarely interacts with them, so how would you know? Just look at the coat of arms on their vambraces. Isn't it exactly the same as those on the Night Wanderer? You're talking about those wooden devices that expel evil. Someone took a glance at Xuemeng's sleeve, and exclaimed in awe as he chewed the pickles crunchily. Ayo, it's true. Who was the one that made the Night Wanderer again? I heard it was Yuheng Elder of Shizun Peak who made it. Who's Yuheng Elder? Is he as powerful as our sect leader Zhang of Gaiyu yet? He, who knows? Who's to say anything about the world of cultivators? The deckhands spoke with a heavy Su dialect and Mo Ran couldn't quite comprehend, but Chu Wanning could understand what those people were saying. Learning that the Night Wanderer that he had invented was now successfully being distributed throughout the common world, he couldn't help but feel comforted. Thus, he started planning mentally, thinking that after they return he should invent more lighter-geared wooden oxen or horses and do more such devices. Once breakfast was done, the group took haste and it didn't take 4 hours before they had reached the foot of Mount Juhua. It was still early in the day, the sun of a winter's day had only just reached its peak and millions of golden light threads came kissing down like silk, sinking the snowy summit in a crystal luminescence, glittering magnificently. Upon the slopes of the summit were hundreds of luscious ancient pines that remained evergreen, standing resolutely in the frost, much like a hermit cultivator with an immortal air, sleeves lowered, eyes half-lidded. Deadly silent as they stood on either side of the mountain path. It wasn't for nothing that the mortals called the summit of Mount Jufeng the immortal world. The feathered tribe whistled thrice at the foot of the mountain, and a little golden canary with vibrantly charming feathers came flying out of the white, snowy Piedmont and landed lightly before them. The group followed the golden canary's lead, heading west the entire way, and came before a curtain of turbulent and tempestuous waterfall. "Will my lord cultivators please step back?" The leader of the feathered tribe stood in front, her hand imitating the hand of Buddha, and she silently recited a spell. Suddenly, she pursed her scarlet lips, and gently blew into the wind. Shockingly, a beam of flames appeared in midair, lunging straight for the waterfall, dividing the water curtain into half. The feathered tribe breezily turned around and smiled. "I sincerely invite my lords to step into the peach blossom spring." They followed after the feathered tribe and passed through the water curtain. After crossing the barrier, the scenery suddenly brightened before their eyes. This place was vast without an end in sight, but bustling and lively like the world outside of it. The peach blossom spring was a sheltered world without many connections to the cultivation world, and while it couldn't be compared to the real land of the immortals, never mind spoken of as equals, nonetheless this land was rich with spiritual chi. Within the springs, the sceneries were as if they came out of poetry and paintings. The colors elegant and delicate, and after having walked for a while, they discovered the changing of seasons was randomized too. With the feathered tribe leading the way, they first passed through the wilderness, and the sound of the coursing rivers roared in their ears, the cries of apes and beasts on either shores. Then they came to the outskirts of the city and saw vast farmlands of crisscrossing field paths, the wheat swaying along with the breeze. Finally, when they had entered the city fortress, there were immaculate and detailed buildings as far as the eye could see, the eaves tall and grand. The main capital of this peach blossoms land was magnificent and beautiful, the city itself grand, its provisions complete, not appearing any less than the lively city centers of the mortal realm. Only, falling blossoms and drifting snowflakes danced together in the air, rare birds and immortal herons took flight together in flocks, and all the feathered tribe folks who passed by were pretty and handsome, their figures picturesque and breezy, each looking like unparalleled fairies who emerged from paintings. However, while such an ethereal scene appeared rather new and interesting, for Xuemeng and company, this was no longer anything that could shock them, since they had already witnessed the bizarre side of Jinchinj Lake. They came to a fork in the road and saw a feathered tribe folk donned in a grand feathered coat embroidered with a gold phoenix and a pure white underlayer standing upright by an ancient tree. The tree was so tall, it reached the skies. That flame mark on her forehead was much deeper than any of the others, a sign that her powers were far greater than the other feathered tribe. The envoys leading the way brought the group of them before her, then bent one knee to the ground, bowing their respects. "Great immortal lord, the 4 young masters from Shizun Peak have come. Thank you for your hard work, you may stand down." "Yes, my lord." The feathered tribe folk, who was beautifully dressed, smiled softly, her voice clear and affecting like the crowing of a young phoenix. "I am named 18. By the recognition from the immortal elder of my family, I was given the grand title of Great Immortal Lord in the Peach Blossom Spring. We are much thankful that my lords are willing to show us the courtesy of coming to train in this humble abode. Should the young masters find any inadequate reception in the duration of your stay here, please do forgive us and do not be afraid to let us know." Such beauty and such grace when she spoke, she certainly gave a good impression. Although Xuemeng didn't enjoy men who looked better than him, he was nevertheless at an age where he was beginning to know beauty and affections, so naturally he didn't dismiss ladies so beautiful it was as if they emerged from paintings. Thus, he smiled in response, "My lord is too kind, but this name 18 certainly is odd. May I inquire for this lord's family name?" 18 replied gently and courteously, I have no family name. 18 is it? Moran laughed heartily. If you're called 18, then is there someone here named 17? That was meant to be a joke, but who knew when 18 heard him? She grinned in spite of herself. The young master is wise. 17 is my sister. Moran. 18 explained, we feathered tribe are born from the fallen down feathers of the heavenly god Zuk. When our cultivation was still shallow, we often appear in the form of a crested ibis. The one to form an appearance first was the elder immortal of my family, and the rest of the feathered tribe are thus named in order of forming appearances, starting with 1, 2. I am the 18th one, and so I am named 18. After Moran heard this, he became speechless. He had originally thought Xue Zhenyang was already horrible at giving names, but he hadn't thought there was one who was even worse here, going by numbers directly. Then, 18 said something that made him even more thunderstruck. Come. Let's get down to business. This is the first time you have come to this place, and you're not yet familiar with the training rules of the Peach Blossom Spring, 18 said. In the mortal realm, for centuries, cultivation has been divided by schools and sects. This place is different. We feathered tribe have always been very clear in dividing work. There are those who specialize in defense, those who specialize in attack, and those who specialize in healing. There are 3 divisions in all, and your training will thus be conducted accordingly. Moran smiled. That's brilliant. 18 nodded towards him. Thank you for thinking so, young master. The cultivators from Gaiyuye also came by several days ago, and when they heard about this training method, they were all quite displeased. Moran felt incredulous. Defense is defense, attack is attack, and healing is healing. Isn't such a clear division a good thing? What are they unhappy about? You see, 18 replied, there is a young master Duan from Gaiyuye who belonged in defense, and needed to reside with the other young masters of the same division. But, his Shija belonged to attack and must train and live with the young masters of the attack division. While I don't quite understand the affections and relations of mortal kind, but I could still tell that young master wasn't willing to be separated from his sworn sister. Haha, what's up with wait, what did you say? Moran stopped laughing halfway through when it suddenly dawned on him, and his eyes widened. Not only do those who belonged in different divisions have to train separately, they have to live apart too. 18 didn't know why his face suddenly changed and replied in confusion, that's right. Moran's entire face turned blue. What kind of joke was this? An hour later, Moran, who had failed in his bargaining with 18, stood dumbfoundedly before a bright and spacious little 4-sided courtyard residence and sank into a long, deep silence. Him, Xuemeng and Xiaosini were sorted in the attack division and were sent to the east side of the Peach Blossom Spring. By east side, it wasn't just any small allotted land, but the place where all the representatives who belonged in attack division lived. There were already more than 20-something of those courtyard residences that housed 4 your masters. There were also mountains and lakes, streets and markets, built very much similar to those of the mortal realm. It seemed it was because the feathered tribe knew they were going to live here for a long time, so it was built thus to help them rid of their homesickness. As for Shimei, since he belonged to healing, he was sent to the south side of the Peach Blossom Spring. It was exceptionally far from where Moran and the others lived, and there was even a barrier set up in between that could only be traversed through with the authority staff. This meant, while Moran and Shimei were both inside the Peach Blossom Spring, other than the daily gathering of all 3 divisions to learn the beginner's cultivation method of the feathered tribe, there was basically no other chances for them to see each other. This wasn't even the worst of it either. Moran suddenly looked up, and gazed towards the courtyard through his thick curtains of lashes at Xuemeng, who was circling all over the yard, obviously planning on picking the most comfortable room for himself. Moran could feel the veins on his forehead pop in spite of himself. Xuemeng. That's right. Fucking hell. From today onwards, he would have to live in the same courtyard as Xuemeng every day. Perhaps for the next long while, he would have to thoroughly experience two of the 8 great sufferings of life, the separation from loved ones and the meeting of enemies. The feathered tribe had been going from the upper cultivation realm to the lower cultivation realm to find their chosen ones, and by the time they reached Shizun Peak, they were already at the end of their journey. Thus, those sent from all the other sects had already settled in before them, and Xuemeng soon discovered that one of the rooms of their little 4-sided courtyard was already occupied. Weird. I wonder who settled in here. Xuemeng mumbled as he glanced at the blanket being hung to dry in the yard. No matter who it is, it shouldn't be anyone who would make much fuss. Mo Ran said. What do you mean? Let me ask you, Mo Ran said, which room did you pick? Xuemeng immediately looked cautious. What are you planning? I've already made my choice, the one sitting in the north facing south is mine. If you're gonna fight me for it, then I'll. He hadn't yet figured out what he was going to do before Mo Ran cut him off laughingly. I don't like rooms that are too big, so I won't fight with you. But let me ask you, if this residence was still empty, he said, and pointed at the little room that someone had already moved into and continued his query, would you change with him? Xuemeng looked at that simple little thatched cottage first before glaring at Mo Ran. Do you think I'm dumb? Of course I won't exchange. Mo Ran laughed. That's why I said that person isn't someone who would make a fuss. See, when he came, all 4 rooms in this courtyard are empty, but he didn't pick the best one and only chose that short, little hovel. If this man isn't a fool, then he's a humble gentleman. This analysis certainly wasn't wrong, but Xuemeng felt like his face was ripped open by the hidden knife in Mo Ran's smile. If the other man who left the best room for other and sleep in a dilapidated hut instead is a gentleman, then doesn't that mean that he is a stinking, vulgar petty man? But Mo Ran didn't call Xuemeng out by name, so young Master Xue couldn't yell back, nor could he endure it, so in the moment, his entire face flushed red. Either way, I'm used to living well. Xuemeng choked in resentment and rebuked with a dark face. I can't stand run-down places in any case, so whoever wants to be a gentleman can go right ahead. I don't care. After speaking, he left in a hurry. Thus in this courtyard, the 4 different rooms each got an occupants. Xuemeng chose the room in the north that has white walls and black tiles with gold lintels. It is the most luxurious one. Mo Ran chose a stone-built room on the west side where a peach blossom tree was planted by the door and bloomed warmly. Chu Wanning asked for the bamboo room in the east wherein by the glow of the setting sun, the warm green bamboo glows like jade. And in the plain hut to the south, is the gentleman who they had yet to meet. Chu Wanning's cold had gone worse, which resulted in his dizziness being severe. He retired to his bamboo room early to rest. Xuemeng stayed with him for a while, but this little Shidi didn't act like a normal child would and didn't ask to be tucked to bed. He just wrapped himself in a little zongzi and slept on his own. Xuemeng sat at the edge of his bed for a while until he got bored and left Xiaosini alone. In the courtyard, Mo Ran took out a chair. He was tilting his legs, with his arms folded behind his head, watching the sinking sun in the west. Seeing Xuemeng coming out, he asked, Xiaoshidi is asleep. Has his fever gone? If you care that much about him, just go in and see for yourself. Mo Ran laughed and said, I'm afraid that the little boy who had just fallen asleep would be woken up by my clumsiness. Xuemeng gave him a glance. It's rare for you to be this self-aware. I thought you would only be like my mother's dogs and cats, just enjoying the shade in the yard lazily. Haha, how do you know I'm just being lazy? Mo Ran played with a peach blossom between his fingers, looked at Xuemeng and smiled. I've not only been sitting in the yard but found a major secret. Xuemeng obviously didn't want to ask, but was still curious nonetheless, and after bearing it in for a good while, with his face still stiff, he worked out an expression of indifference before he muttered, What major secret? Mo Ran waved at him and squinted his eyes. Bring your ear closer and I'll tell you in a whisper. Incredibly unwilling, Xuemeng lowered his gracious ear over. Mo Ran pressed close, and chuckled quietly, he, got you. Dumb Meng Meng. Xuemeng's eyes bulged in round circles and immediately exploded in outrage, yanking over Mo Ran's collar, you lied to me? How juvenile are you? Mo Ran laughed, how have I lied? I did discover a secret, but I also didn't want to tell you, that's all. Xuemeng's dark brows hardened, if I continue to believe you then I'm truly a fool. The two bickered like a bird pecking a dog and a dog biting a bird, and Mo Ran was just about to teasingly say something else to provoke the other to get even angrier when suddenly, a foreign voice laced with confusion from behind went in, before speaking, are the two of you new training peers? This man's voice was clear and crisp, more supple and bright than your average youth. Mo Ran and Xuemeng both turned their heads towards the voice and saw in the crimson blood red of the remnant sun, a man dressed in a tight suit was standing there against the wind. This man was born with deep features, his brows inky black, a black jaded hair crown fastened atop his head, and his honey-colored face was both handsome and spirited. While his body wasn't tall or buff, his figure was exceedingly commanding, more esteemed than those distinguished and with class. Especially those pair of long legs, with the bindings of a tight black suit, they appeared even more shapely and powerful, straight and gallant. Mo Ran's expression instantly changed and it felt like the blood and sins of a separate world flashed before his eyes. It was as if he saw a silhouette kneeling in the tempest of blood, the collarbones shot through with a steel chain, flesh on half the face ripped away but would rather die than surrender, refusing to yield. Note, to shoot through a martial artist with a steel chain through their collarbones was said to be the way to rip them of their abilities and subdue them. His heart trembled, like a crystal dewdrop that dripped from a leaf, and Mo Ran actually couldn't describe what it was he was feeling. If there was anyone he had respected and admired in his previous life, then the one before his eyes now was definitely one of them. So the honorable gentleman who was sharing their courtyard was actually him, huh? End chapter.